Welcome to People and Power podcast on Afrozam Radio, your ultimate destination for bold conversations that shape our nation today. We are thrilled to host a man who needs no introduction and is no stranger to Zambian political stage, Mr. Kelvin Bwalya Fube, or simply known as KBF. A distinguished lawyer, a political strategist, Mr. KBF has shaped the campaigns of both the former President Dr. Edgar Lungu and the current administration. Now, as the leader of Zambia Must Prosper party, is stepping forward with a bold vision for our country. With Zambia facing high fuel prices, a weakening kwacha, and questions about the future of leadership, this conversation couldn't be more timely. We'll discuss his manifesto, strategies for tackling national challenges, and even his thoughts on the return of Dr. Lungu to active politics. Stay tuned as we unpack these critical topics and stick around for Mr. KBF's final words on why he believes Zambia must prosper. Zambia must prosper under his leadership. Mr. KBF, welcome to the program.
Afrozam.
Yes, moving with time and technology.
I'm very happy to see this team, and I'm very happy to be in Luancha. I'm happy to be on the Copperbelt generally, and I hope we have a good conversation.
That's great. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of our discussion, I want you to just give a brief introduction about who you are and why you've now decided to join politics as one of the forerunners.
Well, I'm actually the name Kelvin Fube Bwalya understanding Fube but obviously the acronym runs KBF, which is okay with me because that's a business name. I was born in a little town called Mufulira, not too far away from here. I went to school in Mufulira. I am a child of God. So na fiaridom church kumwesu ine KUCZ, United Church of Zambia. Erna Shiro mu 1963 kumufulira. Opotwale ikala pa section 1 pa hospital compound was directly or diagonally opposite my church, which is Mufulira UCZ Central Congregation. But I began my school career ku nursery school in Combel Avenue in Mufulira. I then went to Mufulira Primary School, and then to Tondo Secondary School. I went to Zambia National Service. At the time, it was compulsory under the KK regime. Then I went to university. Masters, but basically I became a lawyer, and in the process, started running my law firm after working for initially the government under legal aid. Then I joined Ellis and Company. And then I went and worked with Chifumu Banda. And then I decided after 5-6 years, I was ready to form and establish my own law firm. So KBF and Partners as a law firm was established in 1992. And I've been the managing partner of the firm since. We have grown. We have offices in Lusaka. We have offices in Choma. And we also have offices in Livingstone. My political life, I was born in a political life family. My father was a politician. That time, they were growing up and fighting for independence. Bali ba youth, ba akula ba tata, ba regional secretary kumufulira, then eventually by mayor of town and stuff like that. So they started very well until problems came in. Edio Kwaisa Wokshita pronounced the one-party participatory democracy by KK. So my father and his friends joined and gravitated towards Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe,
yes,
former vice president of this country, when he formed United Progressive Party, which was UPP.
Yes.
But during that time, Bakaunda was rather vicious, as you remember. So from a more or less middle-class family, because then I realized the arm of government can twist things. We had, as a family, restaurants, shops, batupoka emyatoka twamba okwenda okuya ku skulu amakyushi yaingira.
Yeah.
But we never lost focus. School was paramount. My late mother was very instrumental in ensuring that we grew up as Christian boys, me and my late brother, and Christian girls for my sisters. Then eventually, as we grew, that life cannot be fair sometimes. And in that, my father and his colleagues, Muflera Kwari Abantunga ba John Chisata, Simutowe, Chambeshi, Kalenga, Jackson Mutale, Sinkamba, Mucheleka, and all the rest of my father's friends who I can remember. Valiambiro kubekata sana under the UNIP regime. So we began to realize we have to live this life. The turning point for me in becoming a lawyer, for instance, I'll tell you one example. Twailem kutandalia batata when he was maximum prison. They were taken to Kabwe.
Yeah, Mukobeko.
I think that was 1978. He had just been arrested. So I wrote my Form 3 then. Tualelembam Form 3, not Imolembam grade 9.
Yes, yes.
Tualembam Form 3. I wrote my Form 3 without my father. Form 4, Form 5, I wrote my Form 5 without my father, but still managed to get through academics. But on this visit I was talking about, tuakwata accident as a family. But what struck me about this visit, it's the time when, as a growing boy, I saw my father now and I began to understand how vicious politics can be. I was talking to my father in Kabwe Maximum Prison, and I said, Mwakokola sana, because I think this was the longest detention they had suffered. Mulaisa lirari kunganda, and he says, not kwatama lawyers. And that's the first time in my life as a growing boy, na umfawed the lawyer.
Yeah.
So na abe pusha, va lawyer finch bachita. And he says, va lawyer, eba for abantunga na kwatama problems in Gayankwete. And I said, oh, really? So I want to be a lawyer. Then he was laughing and said, finch you defo kubela lawyer. I said, I want to come and help you so that, you can come out. And mwisa kunganda, mwakokola sana.
Yes.
And of course, as a boy, my father didn't discourage me. He said, ngawa welilamo. Ngawa kuskulu, ukuli careers master. Ukai pusha what it takes to be a lawyer, if you're really serious. And I remember going back, despite the obstacle of the accident the family suffered. I went back to school, long story short, and I went to see my careers master, a gentleman at that time called Mr. Chipeta. And I asked him, I said, why Chipeta? Nafumaku prison. And Muflera was a small town.
Yeah.
So they all knew what was going with my family. So I said, Ndefoku ba lawyer. I've been talking to my father. Kotuariku prison. Oh, change the folk with a lawyer. I told him, I want to help my father. This and that. And
people who find themselves in the predicament that he's found himself.
Correct. So as times would have it, he was very nice, very educative. He told me the subjects to concentrate on, and the rest is history. I focused on those subjects. I knew from day one, from that day, I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to national service, writing my Form 5 exam, going to university. In my head, all I knew is, Nde amkuba lawyer. I have to help my father. You'll be shocked to understand that, but in a surprising and good manner, that I was just about to enter my second year, being selected to be a lawyer at university. After
you had done your, what do you call that first year?
Yeah, the foundation stage.
Yeah, the foundation, where before you actually streamline.
That's when my father was being released from prison.
Yeah.
From Form 3.
Form 3, which is grade 10, right?
Yes. Tualelemba Form 3 that time. So nalemba, batatata bariko. Form 5 nalemba, batatata bariko. Naingira pa university. Nde ingira second year, but tusala fyokuya mu law school. That's when my father was being released with his friends at the time.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to go home and tell him, I have finally arrived. And very soon, I'm going to be a lawyer. Then he says, well, bakaunda nabatu funya. And we've been invited to go to State House to, go and have words.
Make merry.
Reconciliation and whatever. So, like I was saying, I grew up in a political family. I recall as children, ngabaisaba bakapwepwe kumuflera. My father and his colleagues, all of them would gravitate. Twaliam kukumana ku Murundu, kwati mulea kumkambo.
Okumumpepera kuboda kuri.
Yes, eko aringa ndaba John Chisata. Oko bakapwepwe baleisa. And we would go there. I remember I was one of the lucky kids who would sit on the laps, Yabakapwepwe, pulling his beard and laughing. And I was always asking my father, who is this man with a walking stick and a long beard? Dionsenga isa imoni shinaba nenu mwafyuka mwatulufya. And he said, Deva leader wesuba. And he was very jovial as a man, but very, very quiet, shrewd, and yet this deep look. You knew that he was a thinker.
Yeah.
And some of us had the opportunity to interact with men, great men like that. And we realized maybe politics is not a bad thing, especially if you're doing right, you're speaking the truth, and indeed, among other things, you're working for the people. So my journey in politics started when Nale Chifumu Banda. That is the time when there was a transition period between UNIP and MMD.
Yeah.
You remember the final platform of a press briefing that Dr. Kaunda had when he was signing off to abolish
one-party state.
One-party state. There was an article. It was Article 4 of the Constitution then. So he signed to repeal Article 4 of the Zambian Constitution then.
Yeah.
Now you can imagine, my father started fighting with his colleagues, Wakapwepo, and they were fighting the one-party state because they wanted multi-party. And eventually, it culminated in Kaunda giving up and saying, "Tien Tampenomba multi-party state." And you recall, Wakapwepo had died in 1978. No, 1980, I think.
He never got to see
that fruit. But there was a rumor, a very strong rumor, that the father of the nation then, master dribbler and tactician, FTJ, is the one who received Wakapwepo's walking stick. And it was a signal that Inkonto ina kupera, kalopole fikoti.
Yeah.
So you realize where we're coming from. And me, true to my word, when I was at Chifumu Banda and Associates, because there were people within UNIP who didn't like what was happening, who were members of parliament, who are going to be expelled from UNIP. I had a good friend in the name of Benny Mwinga, who was Mazabuka MP.
Oh, I remember Mr. Ben Mwinga.
Yes,
I remember him.
Yes. We had another Joshua Lumina, who was in Chikankata as an MP. We started fighting for those people to get injunctions so they remain in parliament because multi-party was born.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to be expelled. UNIP wanted to expel them, but they resisted. So they remained in parliament. So from there, we started meeting people like Wachiluba, Kriston Tembo, Godfrey Mianda, Derek Chitala, Dean Mungomba, Ronald Penza, and that crew, the Young Turks, the think tank behind the Chiluba regime, Abawina, Skotawina, Arthurwina, they all came now because Chifumu Banda, State Council Eric Siluamba, Vincent Malambo, myself and other lawyers became like the legal team to push and protect that fight, obviously under the auspices of State Council, the late former president, Levi Patrick. And that is how the legal team of the MMD was founded. So politics for me opened doors then. And for the first time, I found myself belonging to a political party. My first political engagement was MMD.
Okay.
MQuai.
So when you joined MMD, let's fast forward to you leaving the MMD and joining PF. What happened there?
It was a funny thing because, the late President Vamaiko Chulufyasat was quite close to us, but close to me as a person also because if you know Lusaka, my officers at the time were at a building called EW Terrace, which was diagonally opposite Farmer's House, where Vasada's office was.
Yeah.
So when it came to, legal works and things, some cases. So it became easy for us to start engaging vale chitafe ketenka bwalya palya. So you'd come no nge chindefu aulande popalichi. Then you'd advise him legally and stuff. And what made that was, you remember the final statement King Cobra Wapangili. When the master dribbler FTJ decided ukuyashibusha balevi Patrick Manawasa shinabasendama, and he said muno central committee nshide munamo muntu ingakwata ukutaking MMD forward. Basata simply said ejo twikalira munsaka musumba wa bwali nombo bwali tapali n'abasenda. So chinchina laikalira mun. That is how we formed
the Patriotic Front.
And obviously people in the background, like the 6th Republican President Edgar Lungu at the time, he was also a lawyer. We then began to coordinate at different angles, different levels to support this cause. And obviously, to a pange team with our State Council, Bonaventure Mutale, Velis and Company, to a Wikamo, our State Council, Obi Mubanga, our State Council, John Mulwila, and other lawyers, including myself, Anthony Kasolo. That was the core team now that shifted from MMD to move and help Basata with his legal fights and other issues in the run-up to PF. And the reason why some of us left MMD at the time was that fight when there was this cry that by FTJ, by Chiluba, by for a third term.
Third term, I remember the third term bid.
Some of us out of principle said, we've already had a constitutional crisis, and we've agreed that one of the fights we had in Abakaunda was the longevity of a president in office. So why would you want an extension? We understand power is sweet, but tuali umfwana. So on principle, we can't support you. So that is why we transited and moved into the PF, because on principle, we thought we'd be cheating the Zambians. We had promised a president for Zambia will stay in office
maximum 10 years.
And that's it. So that's how we moved. Because that's how we moved to the Patriotic Front.
So you've launched your own political party, Zambia Must Prosper.
Mm-hmm.
You have been known as a political tactician. Mm. You've worked with various regimes, like the previous regime, even this one, even the MMD, from what you've said, Bantu Mwabombana Bena. Now that you've come on the scene as a president, your manifesto outlines a plan for a prosperous Zambia.
Yes.
What are the top 3 priorities you believe will address the pressing challenges facing the nation?
In Zambia Must Prosper, our main thrust is the creation of jobs. And I don't mean filling vacancies that exist in the government or in the parastatals. That's not creation of
jobs.
Yes, sir. Those jobs exist. So our 3 main thrusts will be 1, agriculture.
Okay.
2, the growing of our infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
3, mining. And if I may add, a 4th one is to grow and establish a middle income class, which will also support the SMEs. Because the middle class are the people that employ the maids. They are the people that buy the blocks and bricks, the pavers, the gates from the boys on the street.
Yes.
They are the ones that look after the barbers, the saloon holders. They are the ones that basically support what we might term as the lower tier of our society. So we want SMEs to be strong, but based on a very serious income group called the middle class, who are the technocrats, the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the economists, the professionals who run government, the civil servants. So in that area, we are going to thrust our economy on agriculture. That should be the cornerstone. Why do we want to attack agriculture? Zambia is 752,000 square kilometers as a nation. Most of our country is arable land. 40% of water, fresh African water, is in this country.
40% of all
40%
of all the fresh water in Southern Africa.
Southern Africa sits here. And then we're only using 14% of this arable land. But our main thrust in changing the economy, whether in agriculture, in mining, in commerce and trade, in education, in every aspect of our life, mining, name it, will be that we have to change the laws of this country. Allow me to explain. Our research and development unit as ZMP, Zambia Must Prosper, has indicated very serious glares within our laws, and we have found out that the colonial masters left us a trick. Wherever they went, as long as that country was colonized, the first thing they did was they imported their laws into that country.
Yes.
Second, they imported their culture into that country.
That's why we drink tea.
That is why you're drinking tea. And that is why your parents will always force you, because they believe, according to them, education is a gateway to progress. We as Zambia Must Prosper have studied that trick, and we are saying we must attack the economic laws of this country. What do we mean by economic laws? Laws such as education, because that's ultimately what is going to put food on your table, either as a professional or indeed as a worker. So 2, we are going to attack land law.
Land acquisition.
Land law. By land law, I mean how you own land.
Yes.
How you sell land. How you go and enter into mining, because all that attaches to land.
Yes.
We are also going to attach banking laws, because all these laws were brought in by the Muzungu. But you may want to know that in all these laws, they are skewed to perpetuate their colonialism, their imperialism, under the new umbrella called neo-colonialism. And that's the problem we have. Unfortunately, the current president of this country, Hakainde Hichilema, has embraced this nonsense. I don't know what history he studied. I don't know what kind of thinking he does. But Hakainde Hichilema naamba nechibusa na bamuisa, the so-called investors. And he has allowed them this country, hook, line, and sinker, so that they control our mining, they control our agriculture, they control our commerce and trade, they control almost every aspect of our lives. If we are not careful, it's very easy for Bamuisaba to poison us. You see what is happening in the agriculture sector, for instance. UPND comes into government and they come and sell 2 to 3 years of stock of maize kept in silos by the PF government, wipe clean, vashtisha. There's a drought. Then the maize is gone. You start buying back that maize from Tanzania and from Kenya, from whichever country had sold the maize originally. Because of the moisture and the content now, because of the equatorial climate where it's coming from. No planning. So we as Zambia Must Prosper are going to, first of all, encourage entrepreneurship based on our culture.
Yes.
Based on banking laws we shall institute and present. We shall go and attack the mining laws so that we can have you, him, and the other guys, African Zambian men, owning these mines. There's nothing difficult. How do the Nigerians do it? There's Dangote. There's Chief Sokoto, Chief Abujo, Chief Chakuti. They own industries.
Yes, the means of production.
They own the means of production. Now, if you give those means of production, Kubasungu, in this country, 60 years after independence, what are you doing to the Zambians? We are still enslaved, but economically. Bamipela political independence, Wapoka economy, then you're not free. This is what our founding fathers of this country, this continent called Africa. So, Abena Kwame Nkrumah, Abena Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the KKs, and all these founding fathers of African countries, they saw this. If you know any history as much as I do, you will realize that part of the reason Patrice Lumumba was killed in the Congo was because he stood up to
Against
King
the
Leopold.
Belgians, yeah.
Yes, he stood up to King Leopold of the second of Belgium.
Yeah.
He told him, no, you're not welcome now. You've killed over 10 million of our people. You've stolen our wealth. And we can't have you here. They realized. Look at Belgium. Without the Congo supporting Belgium, what is in Belgium?
Nothing.
Without those Niger, Burkina Faso, those 14 Francophone countries in West Africa supporting France. What is France?
Nothing.
Equally, if we did not export our copper by force, South Africa did not export its copper, cobalt, gold to England by force. Ghana did not export its gold and cocoa to England by force. Where would those countries be?
Nowhere.
They wouldn't be developed.
Yeah.
Equally, we now are in this state as Zambia Must Prosper to tell the Zambians that a time has come when we must turn the tables around. Umusungu, we can only thank him because he sent some of us to school. But in sending some of us to school, some of us went with a critical mind. What is it that makes Umusungu special? There's nothing. Because some of us who traveled to go to their countries, we've seen there are more poorer people in those countries than they are here. You're even much better being poor in Africa than Korea. Because there, if you don't have money, you're finished. So in Zambia Must Prosper, we are targeting these areas so that we grow them. In the agricultural sector, for instance, we are going to create what we term as production cities. What is a production city? A production agricultural city is going to be based on a particular crop or crops.
Depending on the region.
On the region where you are. So if, for instance, in Chipata, you can grow cotton, you can grow tobacco, you can grow groundnuts. You choose one of these two crops. Against that farming block, you have to have an industry, which can then create, if it's groundnuts, cooking
value
oil.
addition.
Yeah, that's the value addition. Now, how was this Luanshya town, Kunondi?
Yes.
How was it created? They first had to discover mining.
Yes, copper.
Copper became the core industry. Then they realized that abantu bashimayininga balaisa kuno bakula upana. Residential accommodation started to grow. Then they needed Ron Hospital.
Yes.
Then they needed the schools. And then the banking system and other trade areas
social amenities for the
in.
children as well.
That is how a production city grows. With that concept, we shall do the same with agriculture.
Just not to cut you, when you talk about agriculture and having production cities for agriculture, in recent times I was reading somewhere on the internet where they say marijuana as a crop.
Yes.
It is a crop that can make a lot of money. And our climate is conducive. But we've got laws that are against farming, cultivating, or just possession of marijuana. Where we copied those laws from, they have rescinded them.
Not copied.
Yes.
They exported those laws. They created... You remember where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
the colonial masters
brought
those laws here and made what's supposed to be legal and make us money illegal.
Yes. And
therefore, they said, Imwe, you should be in perpetual poverty. Let me tell you some history. If you look at the rich American families today, they're rich because their wealth was created from illegal activities.
Yeah.
During the Prohibition period, the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, the Ford Foundation, and all these other big families.
The Rothschilds.
They were importing beer, which was illegal at the time. Alcohol was illegal during Prohibition.
Yeah.
But they were smuggling it through Canada, taking it to America and making money. Just like Ichambalelo, drugs are said to be illegal.
Yes.
So you go and make cocaine illegal for Mexico so that Mexico can be poor. Meanwhile, the cocaine finds itself in America and it's the biggest business today.
Yes.
What are you trying to say? These laws are imposed on third world countries so that they do not make us rich. If ever Zambia Must Prosper, that's one of the things. We're going to kick out Drug Enforcement Commission. We don't need it. What is it doing? Vale Kenya ifokula chita grow marijuana. Meanwhile, they're growing marijuana
and they've legalized
in
it.
Greenhouse houses.
And
it's one of the first laws we're going to kick out. Because Fianchi, if marijuana is medicinal, if marijuana is expensive on the world market, why are you going to make it illegal? Make it legal so that you can make money for your people. It is only illegal because the white man says so. That's not correct. We must live and make laws according to our culture. Ero tuwale kula. Whoever said ukupe bechamba was illegal. In fact, ngoaipshaba dobola, they'll tell you. Ngana dobola ndali masana.
Yeah.
So how are you going to stop him? Ngana dobola on panto mupira. I mean, I wish the late Gentile Kapambwe Mulengo Vunkana was alive. Go and ask him. He would have told you. How in bossing and shibikile munshate ball. But ingabi kamo. Nangumwaisa kabola tiyo mfede na iso wa kukamerun. Either bola ilea nangumundu aleshara. That was Kapambwe Mulengo. And you knew. So in a way, you can't be saying no. Tufunye pwe chituti. Abasungu wali tuwika mulika trick. And the trick is they gave us bad laws to perpetuate our poverty equally in the mining rights. If you find gold, emerald, nickel, or whatever you find in the earth, I should have a say. Because if you don't pay me the equivalent of what I won't give you the right.
Yes, I totally concur with you on that one.
The mining rights against land surface rights, there can be, and there is, an engineer somewhere in the mining department, Kukitwe, Nangukulusaka, Nangukundola. We call him a mining engineer, a mining director.
Yes.
He has the right, by a stroke of a pen, ukukupoka land yowe, simply because they've discovered oil or other minerals on your land. These economic laws have got legal implications about the poverty and the growth of a nation. And we must, at all times, change that. Because umusungolo alembeleka daka sentence. And remember, it hasn't changed.
Yes.
He had the future in mind. And the future is abana obasha munu abasungu abakwatama mines, abakwatama farms, nefyashara. Tetimu wafunyepo padia without negotiating with them.
Yes.
Which was the same concept which was used when Hakainde Hichilema, the president of this country, was negotiating over Mopani and KCM. Yo taturefu emira ndumu makoti. We shall go for negotiations. When Hakainde Hichilema purported to come and hand over KCM, Mwalimu Manako Vedanta, he didn't come.
No.
That was an insult. A president of a nation who claims na mumfwana na mcha negotiate an outside settlement, I sam kushta hand over mine back to you. Wakano kuyapoka as a CEO of the company. There's a trick there.
Yeah.
And this is what my young brother, the Minister of Mines, Kabuswe, has fallen into trouble. He can't explain that. On the floor of Parliament, Kabuswe is asked, what is this? No, it is not a sale. Okay, what is it? No, it's not a transfer. Kabuswe, let me ask you a question. Me, I'm a lawyer. If it's not a sale,
and it's
not a transfer, what the hell is it? Tell the Zambians. No, tatulashtisha. No, tualishtisha. Be clear. What are you saying to the Zambians? Last week, on the floor of Parliament, the Speaker, Nelly Muti, ordered Kauso to come back with a ministerial statement explaining that sale. Because the Minister of Finance, Honorable Msokotwane, did not receive a cent, engwe, over that mine. Only Kabuswe and his president, Hakainde Hichilema, know what they've done over that mine. And the money which is now being invested in that mine is not coming from the investor. Part of the negotiated conditions, one, the investor did not pay any money to the Zambian government.
Yes.
That is fraud. You're saying it's a sale, it's a transfer, but he doesn't pay for his shares. Mwampera 51% of the shares. Based on what? Number two, Mwambo kubomfiendela mukufuma kunapsa. Your own company, your own parastatal, money for retirees, for pensioners. Esho mwambo kufundisha namba contractor. Kumaini yo mwebila na mushita kuli investor. Umungulu. Ushamulia mano mulichi. I mean, Zambians, let's open up. The president we have currently in this government, the UPND government, aliambane chibusa na wasungu under the Brentwood organizations, IMF, World Bank, so that them and their children and their children's children can still control our economy here. But Zambia Must Prosper, we are saying no more. We are going to cancel those contracts and we're going to tell them we are getting back our mines until we renegotiate. Ngata ulefua renegotiation, leave. Bakaunda did it. When RCM, NCCM, and the other Anglo-American companies became funny, KK said, get out. I am forming ZCCM. And we shall run our mines. We still sold our copper. We still maintained our profits. If anybody wants to be a miner in this country and an investor in this country, Zambia Must Prosper will propose to them. We don't want all this nonsense of you telling us, first in taxes, we shall be sharing in the production.
So are you trying to say that Zambia Must Prosper might nationalize some of the mines?
Doesn't it speak for itself? Because as far as we're concerned, we're capable. We are capable of one, nationalizing, two, running the mines. Uyomusungu kafulwa, ngalefo okuya kumakoti, akaye kumakoti. We shall admit we owe you money, but we shall pay you after 50 years.
Okay.
Or we shall pay you in installments. Umukuba wesu. So why are we pleading? And This is the other trick. The only way you get out of this Muzungu mentality and colonial and neo-colonialism arrangement, give them competition. Give them competition. So the first thing you see to Apoga mine, no, you owe me 2 billion. Okay, fine. We owe you 2 billion. Yeah, to Alapiro Mugodi Kuma Chinese. And we'll pay you over 2 years. What's right? He's out. You think they want to leave? No, they'll come and negotiate. Umusungu aliwa greedy. You see, from the historical periods, this is why I love history. These chaps during the 1884, 1885 Berlin Conference of partitioning of Africa, all they discussed was Africa must be used as a source of raw materials. They've never respected us. We as Zambia Must Prosper are putting on record. We want a so-called investor to come here and respect us. Respect our minerals, respect our wealth. And you shall do business on our terms, on our new laws, which shall we enforce and which we shall enact. Not our laws brought by your forefathers. That won't sell. Not anymore.
Mr. KBF, not to cut you, sir. Most leaders in our country, when they're in opposition, they come out the way you're coming out. Even the current head of state, when he was in opposition, he talked about the changing of certain laws. But when people get into power, they change their tone. What assurance can the people that are watching us and listening to us have that when Mr. KBF comes, we will not see him with the people that he's calling to be neo-colonialists?
You know, as an African leader, you must always look at the background of somebody. And one of the main contentions now with the so-called leaders we have today is character. Character is about integrity. Character is about sticking to your principles, even when it's not fashionable to do so. If you see the nearest of my friends, when I started school, 68, 69, twale bali before 7 muklasa abashala basungu nshitino msungu ine. So look at the guy who comes from Namwala okufuma kumushi utamona po msungu aisa mona msungu, he starts thinking msungu ni lesa. There's a difference. Character.
4 years ago,
let me give you my assurance. You've asked me what assurance will the Zambians have. I know the white man. I have studied his books. I know how the white man thinks. A white man believes on speculation. He's a very speculative investor. Unfortunately for the president of this country, my good friend, he has embraced them. Sometimes, in order for you to change an economic setup, you must think in a revolutionary manner. That is the only way people are going to respect you. So for me, I am telling you, Zambians will come first. Not Yabasungu. If any so-called investor wants to come here, if he comes with a colonial mentality, he won't be welcome here. Unfortunately for my friend, he has welcomed them. He has embraced them. He gives them hugs. And that's the unfortunate part. I will not allow that as leader of this country. The Zambians will always come first. Look at what the South Africans did. They got independence, cleared off apartheid. One of the first principles they did is they realized that black South Africans had been disadvantaged for a very long period. Therefore, they allowed a deliberate policy called black empowerment for some of the South African entrepreneurs to grow.
Yes.
There are certain policies you have to come with. There are certain things you have to do for your people to make the difference. What radical difference, what radical program has Aka Indeichilema pronounced, which you, me as a Zambian can say, this has advantaged me against the Mzungu? Nothing. He goes and embraces them. But you know why he has embraced them? They supported him during his campaign. They supported him during the time Ale Pona 5 times for president of this country. So he's paying back. In my campaign, whoever wants to come and help Zambia Must Prosper will help Zambia Must Prosper on our terms. And nothing is going to change if it's going to hurt the Zambians. Otherwise, I don't want their money. I would rather get money from fellow black Africans who understand that we need to kill this spirit of neocolonialism. If we don't kill it, our grandchildren, even our children, will not see the goodness of having a free country like Zambia.
4 years ago, you're on record. You supported the current head of state. You went around the country telling the people that the right path was to go with the UPND. What has changed over the last 3 years?
Ubufi. Lies. Nchifu omuntu wabufini. I hate a liar more than I hate a thief. I hate omuntu ubepa abantu nali mupata. Akainde ichirema wabufi. Wabufi uwafitafititi. And that's the problem I have. He has lied to the Zambians about every campaign promise that he made. Every campaign promise. Akainde Ichilema's only desire, only ambition was to be president of this country so that his CV reflects that nalipo president. Tapari plan. Na nobody in tapari plan. Mwewe na copper belt. Mwewe na Luansha specifically. Mungu mfwe. Neiri ni aisa mkuisu dati shaft number 28 shaft. Kuno kumwenu kuluansha. Tapari file chitika mulia. Those jobs will not be created. Fwewa kesa panga ili nchiton. Fwewa Zambia Must Prosper. We know why.
Talking about the issue of creating jobs, fuel prices and the cost of living remains high, while the value of the kwacha struggles against other major global currencies. How does your party plan to stabilize the economy and relieve financial pressures on us, the citizens of this country? Yes.
And I want to prove it. Graph.
Yeah.
Alewepa wena Zambia tinkachitaka create fuel ikabwela up to 10 kwacha.
Yes.
The dollar ikabwela because of investor confidence. Nefya shala.
Yes.
I am not an economist. I'm a simple lawyer. But I know that umuntu ngatachitira attack the foundations of business, which is the law. If you are lelanda fie. So I realized umnandi wabufi. Any economist will tell you, no matter how big, no matter how fundamentally flawed a system is, look at two indicators. One, the rate of that currency of a country against major currencies.
Yes.
Two, look at the rate of inflation. That tells you where the country is. This guy, our president, said to the Zambians, overrating his confidence, overrating his credibility. Let's say we're sworn in at 10 hours. By 14 hours, by 14, the dollar would have
improved.
And no, the kwacha
would have improved and the dollar would have increased.
We've never seen an improvement of the dollar. In fact, it's been skyrocketing. Today, it's 27.7 kwacha to a dollar.
They say it didn't specify which day.
I'm sorry to say.
Yes.
She speaks like she's not a reverend. Let's be real. And I'm calling her the same because she wanted to deny it on the floor of parliament. Atiaka Inde never said that. He said it. Don't take us for fools. No. So for us, as Zambia Must Prosper, how are we going to spin this thing? The first thing is exactly the thing I've told you. The economic laws, Bwana. Attack the economic laws. Change them to suit you. For instance, studio,
yes,
you've come up as Afrozam,
yes,
with this concept. A very brilliant idea. The people you've introduced me to are all juniors in terms of youth.
I'm the only one who's above 30.
Exactly. What loan did you get from the banks?
We didn't get any loan.
What help did you get from the commercial industry?
No, they didn't.
Exactly. You know why? The loans are skewed against you.
Yeah.
The laws are skewed because they'll tell you, program later. On a balance of, the program looks good. The project looks good. But we can't fund it. Why? You need collateral.
Yeah.
You're telling me you're under 30. Your friends are more or less that age.
Yes.
So you tell me, at your age, that's when
we're trying to build.
Now, if you don't change, how do you and your friends improve?
It's very difficult.
And I'm really sorry to use you as an example, but the truth of the matter is you are suffering because your government doesn't care. Now, how many of you, and by you I mean how many of you in this bracket as youths, have got those ideas, but you can't explain? Let me tell you what happened. Just after the 1863 proclamation of the abolition of slavery by Abraham Lincoln, the American president, 16th American president, if I may be right, what did the southern states do? They declared war.
Yeah, the Civil War.
Why did they do that? They said, you're taking away our machines. That time, we, with this skin color, were looked at as machines.
Yes, cheap
to
labor.
work in their cotton plantations, their groundnut plantation, their tobacco, their sugarcane plantations. So, to allow Bombashan, the government had to negotiate after 1865 when C.S. Grant took over as president after Wilson, after Abraham Lincoln, Wilson, then C.S. Grant.
Yes.
When he took over and he won the war, that's when they went into a period called the Reconciliation of America. That period, the American government agreed to compensate all the slave owners for the loss of their machines, the Africans. 2, they gave them the extra land so that could be part of the... But the worst part was they also allowed them credit. Credit. In Congole.
Yes.
And some of those loans, they never paid back. How is the next youth being supported? When the government realizes the laws are skewed against the Zambians. That's the problem we have. And if you have a leader who does not go back into history to understand and study these things and say, how do I come and change this in an Angiram government? Instead of thinking about the poor Zambians who voted for him into power, he's thinking about impressing Abasungu. You can't have a president like that. This president does not appreciate to gain our political independence. Right now, he's emphasizing now for us to go through the economic turmoils. This neo-colonialism must end. It only ends when we change the laws, the economic laws, and we change the practical conditions of the Zambian people. Zambia Must Prosper has already done its research and development, and that's where we're going to take this country.
The other pressing issue that we're going through as a country is the issue of electricity. Currently, climate change, there were people who were naysayers. 20 years ago, when we were faced, this theory of climate change was in the mainstream. A lot of people were naysayers, but now each and every one of us has been impacted by this. How does your government plan on addressing our electricity issues as a country?
Our country sits just above the equator, or just below the equator, rather.
Yeah.
But our northern circuit, 4 provinces, Northwestern Province, Northern Province, Wapula Province, and Muchinga Province, enjoy relatively the same amount of rainfall year in, year out. The first thing Zambia Must Prosper is going to do, we're going to set up mini hydropower stations along that belt in those 4 provinces.
Why don't we diversify?
No. Wait for me. The reason for it is we're going to set up as many small hydropower stations, 10 megawatts, 20, 30, 50, 100 megawatts. A total combination of this will give us maybe 2,000 megawatts of power. Because the water there is sufficient and we can do this. This is number 1. It will relieve the pressure of the Kariba, Lower Kariba, Iteji, and all the other dams in the southern side of Zambia. Number 2, look at the sun. We've got the free sun. They don't see this sun for 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
But they still have solar power. We are going to set up solar farms. And some of the solar farms we're going to set up, I've been to countries where the solar panels are along highways. Like you start solar farming from Nakonde to Kapirimposh.
That's a long stretch. Every 20, 50 meters, there's a pole, which is 6 meters, 8 meters high, with a solar panel sitting. Every 50 meters, you tie those into a battery, kick it into the national grid. How many solar panels are you going to have? We've got the Muchinga escarpment. Put solar panels on the Muchinga escarpment. It runs all the way from Mukushi to Nakonde. Panels can run on that mountain. In the Chipata Eastern Bloc, we've got Amanenikela, as you're going to Chipata.
All those hills, put solar panels there. They'll capture that heat, let it go into the batteries. Solar farms can also be put Malungu, where you don't want to do your farming. Those grasslands. Just put up solar panels there. Capture that sun, capture that electricity, put it in the batteries, kick it into the national grid. That's the second option. Third option, we're going to use bio. We've got Kunoku Kumwenu, Kuluansha, Inena Kulia Kumufurira. But all the towns on the Copper Belt were planned in the same way. Ngamuleya ku western side, there were sewers.
Yes. Kabiro Mwera. Yeah.
So you agree with me?
Yeah.
So that side, you don't just collect the sewer as it's leaving. No, you burn that bio and create electricity. You know you can create electricity from that?
Yeah, we can even do biogas digesters.
Now you're agreeing with me. Why haven't we done that? There's so much technology open on the streets now. The fourth area is we can do solid waste management. I know of plants in Europe, in China, in India, where they collect all the waste. They heat it, run through the water, create electricity.
Geothermal.
So, your city council just has to employ people to collect. Kumarabo. That's where you go. But right now, you don't need Kumarabo. Set up an industry right there.
Because the waste is actually...
it's cheap, way.
And it's a raw material.
I'm speaking to the converted. So you understand. And you know that in some countries, this kind of electricity can power an entire province. So why are you going to waste this material? If you've traveled this country as much as I have, you will note that you cannot go from one province to the next without crossing at least 4 rivers.
Yes.
Whichever
direction
where does that water go?
I'll give you an example. To the ocean.
When Vasatabali Mupawa, he went to Shuangandu and he found that those castles are in a shanton in our light. He said, but we've got a stream work. On the rapids there, ZESCO was forced to put up mega.
Yes.
2 to 5 megawatts of power is produced from there. It's powering right through to Chinsari. Now, if we can power and generate power from just rapids, what more menshi? Along the belt of the northern province, starting from Mbala, going down to Mporokoso, there are almost 14, 16 falls. Lungu has a likable personality when you compare him to Aga Indechirema. Aga Indechirema wakaso. Wakaso. Tete afunyera ngutungo kukupera. Lungu bali kwa toko woko. Bala pera. You may call him but he loves his people. He loves his country. I cannot say the same about Aga Indechirema right now. He's got a problem. So Lungu is going to have a serious impact. Whether he stands or he doesn't stand, he's going to have an impact. And the reason is because he's liked by the Zambian people. Whoever Lungu is going to align himself to will beat Aga Indechirema. That I can assure you. And that, for me, and speaking as a president of Zambia Must Prosper, we want to ensure that we work with PF and other opposition political parties because we realize we have to redeem this country against this nonsense which is going on. This is not leadership. This is not leadership. The Zambians deserve better. And Aga Indechirema has driven this country to the ground. Like I said, the economic factors, the economic indicators are clear. The inflation rate, the rate of the dollar against the kwacha. Those two, just those two. You don't need to go into details, just those two. Any economist will tell you we've got a problem with this country. So right now, our country is in surgery, in ICU. And the person who has driven us into the ICU is the person who lied that he was going to get us of that which he claimed to be the ICU at the time. He has driven us to a worse position than we were before. So Lungu is coming back to power. For me, I welcome it because we have to fight to defend democracy. Remember what I said. The main reason we as Zambia Must Prosper left the political alliance, the UPND, is when Aga Indechirema asked me to collapse Zambia Must Prosper into UPND. I realized this guy is a dictator. This guy wants a one-party participatory democracy. This guy loves power. There's a difference between using power to serve the people and using power to grandiose yourself. If you're I saw through that, I realized, no. Better na fumamo. Because the fifikesa at wedel. But also, why do you want to kill democracy? Why does Aga Indechirema want to kill democracy? Because that's all he wants to do. He wants to ensure that all the opposition leaders, especially from PF, are arrested, given cases. Number two, that PF itself in such confusion that it can't stand. 3, any opposition leader who wants to speak against him, under the Economic Crimes Court.
Mr. Fube,
Mukai.
You are a lawyer. Lawyer. When you say you imply that these people actually don't have cases, but they're being found guilty in the courts of law. So are you saying our judiciary is compromised?
I've been a lawyer for too long. You say you're under 30.
Yes.
I began practicing law before you were born. So it gives you the kind of experience I have.
Yes.
I also know that sometimes the court systems can face pressure. Can I simply say that?
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
So we do not...
No. I'm an officer of the court.
Yeah.
I cannot insult the judiciary, but I know that what is happening today, some of it should not be happening.
Let's talk about Honorable JJ Banda. There was a report in the media by our minister where it was stated that he was apprehended in Zimbabwe. But today we are hearing something else, that no, actually he has applied for political asylum. What is your take on the current affairs regarding Honorable JJ Banda?
Now, speak as a lawyer.
Yes.
Under the Geneva Convention, if someone is a prisoner of war or a political, person who's being persecuted in his own country, he has a right to apply for asylum. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, State Counsel, Jack Mwimbu, I think got excited because, as usual, the UPND, valitemwa sana ama pronouncement. Valitemwa sana ama, ngufu okulanga tibale bomba. But they don't understand the geopolitical arrangement. They don't know that today their president is not liked around the region. Let's be clear. Let's call a spade a spade. Aka in the Ichilema today, in the SADC region, in the AU, has very few friends at political, presidential level. Why? His policies. To his conduct. People don't like him. And that's the truth. So what happened with JJ Banda? It's very clear. The president of Zimbabwe or his government decided this man is being persecuted. He can't go back. So now what have they done? They've actually given him political protection. Now that's a sovereign state. You have to negotiate with Zimbabwe. And if Zimbabwe doesn't want to hand him over, so be it. What are you going to do? He'll be a fugitive until 2026 when Zambia Must Prosper with the other opposition alliances come to power. We shall forgive him and bring him back.
Talking about...
I know we need a Timbwele in that situation. Let me be very clear. Politically, with the kind of president we have, who's very vindictive, who amufimbila, who alupato, JJ is not safe here. Let's be real. So what has happened is a lesson in what we term as geopolitical coexistence with other countries. When you have a president who is not trusted by his fellow presidents, that's the kind of reaction you get. Now, if, for example, there was goodwill between Zimbabwe and Zambia, what would have happened? Today would have been receiving JJ on a plane escorted by Zimbabwean police. He won't come. Because Zimbabwe has seen through what is happening in this country. And they don't want. What's more, we have Zimbabwean elections take place. Our president doesn't go. You think Mnangagwa was forgotten? Remember, he's the crocodile. They don't forget. He's got a very long memory. He's going to remember, this is the president who thinks... and he was supporting my opposition leader. Oh, okay, fine. Now a situation has presented himself to him in Zimbabwe. Let me embarrass him. That's the truth. So, for me, who understand the geopolitical situation around, it's nice to be neighborly. Otherwise, you'll be embarrassing yourself. This shows immaturity on the part of the Minister of Home Affairs. He should have waited for JJ to be on the plane, for JJ to be landing at KK International Airport with the cameras there and to show the people, JJ oyo, not mwikata. ulela ndi umuntu wadi ukutali. You don't even know okwadi and the relationship between the president of that country and JJ or whoever is playing with. Let's be real. Mwasewa na nomba. This government, unfortunately, has no friends around here. They may attend some inaugurations here and there and they'll pretend that they are a sovereign country. But at presidential level, they don't have the same friendship. Let me give you an example. Again, historically. When we were fighting for the independence of Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, Angola, and we were named as the African frontline states, the headquarters was here. The leader of the frontline states or chairman of the frontline states was our late first president, KK. Do you know how much respect that man commanded?
A lot.
When Nelson Mandela was being released from prison, the first country he traveled to was this country. Do you know how many people were at the international airport in Lusaka? Yasser Arafat, all the SADC countries, all the AU countries, presidents sent representatives to come and see Nelson Mandela land in this country. Just at the phone call of KK. That's respect, bwana. That is leadership. Not if today, mona. President yu mona na fena basungu wa seka fena wo. Pakuposhanya na basungu wala fula ma gloves. Pakuposhanya na iwe na iniku fula ma gloves. Abantu wala mona notu abupuba. Kwata mano.
Mr. Fube.
Mkwani.
Right now, kudi dia shidama alliances. Twadi Monaco Uka alliance, Twadi Monaco Tonse alliance. And there is this discussion. Are you, yesterday when you were launching the manifesto on the Copper Belt for Zambia Must Prosper, you came out and said you are open for alliances. You are open to join other opposition political parties and political groupings to come together to ensure that your faction wins the 2026 general elections. What happens if you joined an alliance and you're not selected as the leader of that alliance? And what are some of the key factors that you are looking at before you join any alliance?
Okay. A very good question, and I'm sure Zambians are very interested that we form this alliance and form it soon enough to start fighting. The one thing that I want is unity, more alliance. 2, honesty, more alliance. 3, truthfulness, more alliance. When UKA was formed, we were approached to join UKA. When we discussed it at national level, as Zambia Must Prosper, the decision was they don't seem to be stable. Let us wait. And true to our observation, UKA is more or less disintegrating. You've seen a lot of resignations. And in fact, Tonse Alliance is a brainchild of UKA. It's a breakaway group.
Yeah.
So there's a problem. Tonse has been formed, and the thinking process in Tonse is far much better and more open-minded than UKA. Mumu UKA mwaliama egos too much. Now, when you've got egos on the negotiating table, you're not going anywhere. Politically, I'll tell you, you're not going anywhere. I've been in politics long enough to know. Ama egos ngayafula. Fila shiupa. Tabucha wangu. So in Tonse, at least Tonse has made its position very clear. They've said they are going to run with ECL in 2026.
Okay.
They've made that pronouncement at the get-go, which means leadership na Monica.
Yeah.
This is the leader. So your question mwachinji pusha. Namkota leader, Tef.
Yes.
According to you,
yes.
Tonse.
Yes.
Tatula join a Tonse. We may go to that group and give it impetus and give it a bit of strategic thinking, etc. We shall see how that pans out. But to say that wakawombena alliance yonse, that's wrong. But again, to say to ala wombane alliance nang to ala chitefi without finishing the background negotiations, nshilefo kubanga Jack Mwimbu munjeleleko.
Yes.
I am not going to announce things prematurely because the lives of Zambians depend on the decisions we make as leaders, but also the information we convey. Inendimina Christu. Proverbs 18:21 says the power of life and death is in the tongue. So before I speak to the Zambians, I must be very careful what I speak to the Zambians. If I give a commitment to the Zambians, I must live up to that expectation. The Zambians must know this is a leader. He gives his word, he keeps his word. On principle, let me simply say we have not yet finished our negotiations. We are discussing underground. Beyond this, I cannot speak.
Thank you very much.
But I'll promise the Zambians, we shall arrive at an alliance which they'll be happy with.
Okay.
Mkwai.
So now moving forward, if you could achieve only one transformative change for Zambia's president, what would it be and why?
If I am president?
Yes. If you could achieve just one thing, which would that be and why that particular thing?
Creation of Zambian youth jobs.
Why?
Because I know that is how you get people out of poverty. I want to be remembered as a president who created employment, who created jobs. That is all. Take that, leave it.
Mr. Fube, we've been on this program for more than an hour.
Mkwai.
What message would you like to send to the Zambian people, particularly those struggling with high cost of living and unemployment?
Very simple. Now to go at Pondom State House. Chifude chai. Ubu chushi wonsyo univa UPND valete. Fyonze formule pitamu ubunga na bushupa. Amala iti takudi. Emiti mfipatala tamudi. Transport itailenda winu. What else do you want? Now mwisho wa kuchita blame. And the blame falls squarely on the president because this is an executive kind of democracy. The president is the ultimate power. Therefore, any decision done in his name, the buck stops at him. Mu 2026, we're in Zambia. We've only got one goal. As an alliance, a coalition, or whatever we shall call it, let's get rid of the UPND. Vatuchusha pafula. And anyone who's saying, including the praise singers Baba UPND, talechulelelo, kwena nishipu. Because I'm a chushina yesa. And everyone is suffering. Let's be real. Even some of the praise singers who come on this program, when they make phone calls and talk, vale chula. But because they are paid, they think, no, nala nandef. Kadaka tungwenga bakupela mwana. Mailo kakapwa. Amashi ulela ndayale shala. People will remember you and they will look at you as a fool. So, support the right cause. Support the majority of the poor Zambians. And this is very important to any leader worth his salt. You must be truthful when you speak. If you're just speaking because nabakupela tungwe and you're not honest with yourself, well, inengo mwena Kristo ndatino kubepo.
Where can people learn more about your manifesto and the party, Zambia Must Prosper?
Well, we are online. They can find it on our blogs, on our website and other areas. But more importantly, they can just interact with our leadership. We've got the provincial chairman in the Copper Belt, the various provinces. Our leadership is growing. Our membership is growing. Like I told you yesterday, and I'll repeat here, I'm a grassroots person. I like being hands-on. I like organizing kufuma panshi because I know when the foundation is strong, chonzo cholekula pamulu will be strong. But you don't build from the leaves. If you ask me today, UPND ishielefe pamulu parape nivale yumfati niva minister niva executive management decision wa UPND panchi UPND tapadi. I know for a fact because we have traveled this country. And the reason is the UPND leadership doesn't know how to organize its party. And let me speak frankly. By UPND, by youth today, vale chula, just like anyone else. Vanamaya wam UPND, vale chula, just like anybody else. And in fact, now I say vana. Because they are regretting supporting UPND. Now they realize, Fionse foba bebe le fiabufi. Fionse foba bala ile fiabufi. Ama cooperatives vale wokupanga tapali file bomba. There's no empowerment coming out of UPND. Vale bepe fia CDF. CDF taile bomba na mchimo. Vale wopat free education. Free education taile bomba na mchimo. Vale bepat walichita employ ma doctors na ma teachers mwe. Uko chita employ. Na chonga chaba skewed because mwambo kumonika kwa nakani mfiliko tribal. Tafiwa mayo. So those are issues which now people are scared of because they realize in chitana ipwa. So tukachitasha mu 2026. Wufinch tukesa bepa. uwamireterera ba UPND ni againde ichilema akanwa kakwe akabufi uwamireterera imwe ba pressing ni againde ichilema akanwa kakwe akabufi but nalamilomba mwebe na Zambia nero tatulaya ndefo kumibukishako ngabaisa nendalama baisa nobunga baisa nefe balefo kumifoleshanga kuli by election nanguli ali tukala ku 2026 mukale fisenda no kufidia because no momo twala pitani chita Twitter don't kubeba reloaded mukadie because it's your money but pamutima muikala becho mwachula nacho muikala becho na muchula ndefu ayoro muleya mu 2026 mukuvota mukaina mufulwa mwebera twamukutamvyo muntu nga mwavota don't even leave kuikala parapeni mpaka bapenda and make sure you have the result before you leave mwavotela mufire mwashi wat new to vote no tukumifisa if you ashala ma strategies na ifo tukalabomba kuntanshuko.
So as we're coming to the end of our interaction, what are your concluding remarks to our listeners and our viewers?
Mkwaine pafi abena Zambia ukweba ti twikatane tupepelesa wa makayonse ukweba ti ilo twala ikatana ba UPND bena tabafiri okushuruka 2026 bafiri okuya amachushi achila icho chena ndela ya tabaka chiluke 2026 elo ngabalefo okweba tabaka chiteriga my elections. I am warning the UPND. I know how to run elections. So tukapepekana nikola nembwa na totera mkwai.
Thank you very much for coming through.
Awe na totera na inemkwai. Thank you to the listeners.
And that wraps up this insightful episode of People and Power podcast on Afrozam Radio Age. Thanks to Mr. Kelvin Bwalya Fube for joining us today and sharing his bold vision for Zambia's future, his party's manifesto, and his thoughts on the nation's pressing challenges. To our listeners, we hope this conversation has sparked reflection and inspired actions. Let's know your thoughts in the comment sections and stay tuned for more thought-provoking conversation. Until the next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and let's build a better Zambia. Thank you very much.